Oh, hey. Well, I was taking a little cat nap, but welcome to another episode of From the Truck, the Baby Edition. So, some of you may know my wife and I were expecting, and the baby was born. Baby Una was born on Thursday night, just a couple of days ago, and we came home from hospital yesterday after almost a week there. It's crazy in all of this coronavirus stuff going on, birth and babies. But so we were there for almost a week. It was like a little mini vacation, if you want to think of it that way. That's how we were kind of think about it to get through. And so we came home yesterday, and our first experience was with Una up most of the night, as were we. So I was catching a few winks before I recorded, but so I gotta catch up on my caffeine intake here too. So pardon me while I get some caffeine on board. I gotta tell you, everyone gave a lot of advice about getting ready for parenthood and all of that, and it was great, and we took it all on board. And but what I have learned in a few short days is no one has any of this figured out, and you're kind of making it up as you go along. We had no idea last night why. She had been great sleeping during the day and had been eating and napping and and all this kind of stuff. And last night we fed her about 7 o'clock, and it was finally about 3:30 in the morning when she stopped crying and went to sleep. But it took three of us. My mother-in-law is staying with us. It took three of us to get her settled down. So we're running on reserves, which, as I understand it, is how the next 18 years are going to be. We're just going to be running on reserves for the next 18 years. But we're very happy we couldn't be. She's great. Everything's fine. I'll have her on an episode coming up. She's sleeping right now because we had our first pediatrician appointment today. So she's not only tired from last night and this morning, but the traumatic experience of visiting the pediatrician for the first time. So there's a lot going on in her little life of only a few days at this point. But it was an amazing experience. A lot of you perhaps have been there when your children were born, or at least heard about it in some way. But it really was an amazing experience, and my hat's off for women for going through it. We have no idea, guys. We have no idea what it's like. The pregnancy, all of that, delivery, every bit of it. So my hat's off to my wife and to all mothers. Mother's Day is coming up in a couple of weeks, and so here's to you for doing what you do. And hold on here. So that's what's been going on since Easter. We went in hospital on the Tuesday after Easter. We're still doing online services. If you're interested, you can find us on Facebook, Second Congregational Church in in Beverly. Sorry, I'm got baby brain right now. Second Congregational Church in Beverly. And so I do pre-recorded worship. We tried to do live, and it just really wasn't working for us. So we went to the pre-recorded worship, and that seems to be working pretty well. So radio show is going well. That's Sunday morning, 6 o'clock, WCRN 8:30 a.m., WACE 7:30 a.m. You can check me out there. We're on SoundCloud. We're also on Facebook at Faith in America Radio. You can check us out there on Twitter at Faith in Radio. And getting a little more active over on the Twitter side of things with religious stuff, especially with all of this pastors and whatnot who are defying local ordinances to stay closed and holding worship services. And now there's this group in California suing the governor because they, in their words, have criminalized religion, which is, pardon the expression, a bunch of BS. It's not criminalized. Large gatherings are criminalized. And it's to save lives, right? I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. I know I've mentioned it in sermons. I know I've mentioned it on the radio program. Jesus commands us to love our neighbor. And right now, the best way we can show that love is by staying home and flattening that curve, So I have a friend of mine who's an attorney, and his wife posted this morning that he was off to a funeral for a client. Apparently, his practice has to do with the elder law. So all of his clients are elderly. Most of them are in nursing homes. So this particular client died a couple of days ago, I guess, of the coronavirus. He was the only one at the funeral. He was the only one. There's a nephew, I think he said is in the military, and another one that lives in North Carolina. And because of travel restrictions, they weren't able to get here. And that was the only family that this person had. And so he was there by himself. So this is an unintended consequence of all of this, right? So all y'all out there protesting and with your guns and your Confederate flags and all this other nonsense, and staring down nurses and yelling at them and telling them to go back to Asia and all this other stuff. And I want you to really think long and hard about a couple of things. One is, if you're so excited about opening up everything and everything going back to normal, I'd like you to pick two of your relatives, just two, who you have no problem with getting this virus and dying, okay? Because that's what's going to happen. All right, so that's one thing. The other thing is, I want you to think about this person who died and their family and how they weren't able to be at the funeral and what that must have been like. And so I want you to think about the last funeral for a loved one that you went to and what that would have been like burying someone. I buried my father in December. And if we were not able to be there and have a funeral for him at that time, the whole family, that would have been devastating to us. So I want you to think about that because, it's not about you, right, and what you want. It's about all of us. It's about the collective. And science, and I know some of you out there, you don't really like science, right? Someone's told you that it's a hoax and science doesn't really matter, right? Well, you better start paying attention to science because science does matter. And what the science is telling us, reputable science, let's say that. Reputable science is telling us that if we flatten the curve, this thing's going to end. And the longer it takes us to flatten the curve, the longer we're going to be in this, right? Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker today announced that schools are going to be closed for the rest of the year. All right, another consequence of this. Seniors are not going to get graduation. They're not going to get all this stuff that maybe we had when we graduated, all right? Now, for some of you, maybe it doesn't matter because it's not affecting you, which is, by the way, the very definition of privilege. But I happen to know people who have had it. I thankfully, knock on wood, I don't know anybody who's died because of this yet. But it's affecting everybody. And so, if you're one of these people out there protesting, and don't get me wrong, I think you have a right to protest. I'm never going to say you don't have a right to protest. But think about what you're protesting, right? You're protesting something that's actually working, right? Think about this, a government program that's working, right? The curve is flattening. We've seen the numbers in New York come down. Here in Massachusetts, where we're peaking now, right? We're a couple of weeks behind New York. But the numbers in New York are starting to come down. And they're coming down because of social distancing, or actually we're supposed to call it physical distancing now, sorry. And things like that, right? So I understand it's difficult. I understand people are out of work. I understand you want to go to the 7-Eleven and get your big gulp, Dr. Pepper, whatever it is. I know you want to be able to walk around carrying your gun and your Confederate flag. I know you want to be able to do all that stuff, and I support your right to do all that stuff. However, just sit down in your house. Let me put it a little bit more direct than that. Sit your ass in your Barcalounger and watch the TV because you just might be keeping your neighbor alive. You may not have this thing, or you may have it and not have any symptoms. That's a new one that popped up for me this week. People who can actually have this thing but not have symptoms, right? So you don't know you have it, and then you come by my house and you give it to me. Now I have it, and I give it to my new baby. That's not good. That's not good. So keep your ass in your Barcalounger, all right? There'll be plenty of time for you to protest and carry your Confederate flag and your guns and all that other stuff over the summer or maybe into the fall. But for right now, let's just put all that stuff away and just sit down and relax. All right, and we'll get through this together. All right, so ramble's over. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to finish my cup of coffee here, and I'm going to sneak back in the house and maybe try to get 50 winks or some shut-eye or whatever it's called now. I don't even know, but something like that. All right, thanks for tuning in to From the Truck Baby Edition. See you next time.